Good morning, Micah 7:7. We're in our 3-part lesson on separation. And yesterday I took you through the cookie dough. We want to be a chocolate chip in a cookie dough culture. That is such a great analogy because, as we remember, the chocolate chip does not lose its form in the dough. The dough, the eggs, the flour, they all blend together. And we don't know what we're tasting. I mean, we can't identify the egg or the sugar. It's just all blended. But that chocolate chip maintains its form even in the heat of the oven. And that's, to me, a perfect example of a Christian in a worldly culture. Just like Daniel in Babylon, how he stood out. He did not conform to the Babylonian rituals and to their culture. But today we're going to talk about separation of the mind and spirit. And we know that the mind is, when we talk about the heart in the Bible, it's really the mind. It's what we think on, what we pattern our thoughts after. But first of all, I want us to talk about holiness. Now, when you think of holiness, many times people from years ago will think about what someone looked like. They came from a holiness church, or their standard of holiness. But the Bible says that holiness actually means to be set apart for God. And it's a Hebrew word, kadesh, and it's translated holy, consecrated, or sanctified. And we have spoken over this year that God is going to do amazing things, and we preface this with Joshua 3:5, sanctify yourselves, for today the Lord will do wonders among you. So we're walking through these 7 different steps to consecrating, sanctification, these different things that will draw us close to God so that we can see amazing things. And holiness, separation of our mind and our spirit. When we talk about our spirit, I'm referring to our attitude. I'm referring to, because out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So whatever we're thinking about is going to come out of our mouth. And if we look the part on the outside, but we have issues with what we say, we're depressed, we're angry easy, we don't have control of our temper or our mouth, then it really doesn't matter what we look like on the outside, because it all starts with inward holiness. It starts with inward separation. We shouldn't look like the world, but we certainly shouldn't sound like the world. Right now, the world is full of fear. It's full of confusion. It's full of divisions, a lot of different divided politics, divided opinions, but that should not be the church. This is the church's finest hour to step up and truly be, as we talked about yesterday, salt and light. God calls us to be a light in this dark world. And as we progress in through this year, this world may get darker, but our light should shine brighter. And so inward holiness is where it all starts. The Lord commanded us, He said, be ye holy as I am holy. Holiness is a pureness of heart. It's a place, you can't have a pure heart if you are jealous, if you're bitter, if you are, if you're struggling with lust and harboring that. We all struggle with things. So just know that's a natural part of us. We do. We struggle with selfishness. We struggle with egotism. We struggle with Phariseeism, all these things. So once you identify what's going on in your heart, then you take it to the throne room of God. Many times I pray, Lord, create in me a clean heart. We talked about detoxing the heart. We talked about how the importance of making sure our spirit is right. So a holiness, separation of spirit means we are not going to sound like the world. We're not going to think like the world. And because of that, we have to be careful of what we listen to, of what we entertain ourselves with. We have to be careful about how we respond and react to situations. The world needs to see a difference. So let me take you to the grocery store, because this is taking it home. Someone cuts in front of you in the line. and you are in a hurry because you've got to get home and get some stuff done to be able to get ready to go to church. And that person cut in front of you. Not only did they cut in front of you, but they had a buggy full and overflowing with groceries. And not only did they have that, but they had a couple of screaming kids on each side of them. And now you're mad. Now you just want to say something, you just want to respond to this, but suddenly you remember that Spirit of God. You had a good time in prayer that morning, and that Spirit of God just comes over you, and you look at that mother with those children that are crying and all those groceries, and you begin to empathize with her. And because you're not of the world, you're not going to be rude to her. And you actually say, hey, can I help you with something? And maybe I can help you put your groceries on the conveyor belt. And you reach out to her, and she looks at you and she sees something different. She sees Jesus in you. She sees that you are not like everyone else because you are a chocolate chip in a cookie dough culture. And so you help her, and she doesn't know what to do, and suddenly maybe she might even get a tear because she's had a really rough day. And as you're helping her with the children or helping her with the groceries, she wants to see and know what is different about you. God opens up a door for you to be a light to her, and next Sunday she comes to church with you. It's because we are not like the world. We're not called to rage. We're not called to anger. All the confusion on the news and the politics and the fear, and you can see it on everyone's face. A child of God should not operate in fear. Because Jesus was in the middle of a storm and he slept on a pillow. Like, how could he do that? Our natural reaction would be to just holler out, hey, somebody do something. I mean, we've got to have help here. But there was so much peace in Jesus. He walked in peace. He lived in peace. His mission was to accomplish the will of God here. He didn't come here to set up his own kingdom. And because of that, he knew that everything that happened to him was what was supposed to happen. And there was peace in that, even going to the cross and suffering. So what does it look like to be separate in our mind and spirit? That means that we trust that all things work together for good to them that love the Lord, even things that don't make sense. And we stand on that word even when we can't see it with our eyes, because we're walking by faith. We're separate from the world. God called us out to have a transformed mind. We cannot be separate from the world in our own ability, because our natural man is fearful. Our natural man is angry easy. Our natural man tends to go to those fleshly things. So we crucify it every day in prayer. We get that transformed mind, and then we can be separate. We would be surprised if we knew how many people around us know about the condition of our hearts. They know by our actions, they know by our speech, and they know by our demeanor. They can feel our spirit and attitude. And just like the mother in the store, that her life was probably completely changed. And some of you may have this story. I'm just painting a scenario, but some of you may have actually walked through this. Her life will never be the same because she connected with somebody that was separate from the world. And that's what God calls us to, that inward holiness, that inward purity, because He is the one that's shining through. As long as they see more of Jesus than us, then we know we're going to be separate in mind and spirit. Well, I hope that blesses you today, and I want to encourage you again to be a chocolate chip in a cookie dough culture. God bless.